Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Good day and welcome to the program Agriculture on the Move. I am Phillip Sydney. In today's program, we are looking at the production and consumption of our locally produced commodities. That is vegetables, food and root crops, and livestock products. And of course, we're looking at this vis-a-vis the others that we consume. The impact of this on our health. Without further ado, I will introduce you to our panel for discussion. And of course, we have to my extreme right, Dr. Stephen King, who needs no introduction, our own Dr. King. We have Mrs. Lucia Hunte-Mitchell, who is the Chief Nutritionist attached to the Ministry of Health, and Mr. Vincent La Corbinierre, who is our marketing specialist in the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Production, Fisheries, Cooperatives, and Rural Development. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. King, I want to start with you because it means that everything health, you see it all. You see from the beginning and you see the debilitating effect at the end.
Yeah.
How does our consumption of our foods, both imported and local, impact on our health?
Well, if you think about it, there's an old saying, we are what we eat. And in fact, many of our diseases are produced or encouraged, facilitated by what we eat. If you look at the top leading causes of death in St. Lucia, heart disease, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, just take those diseases alone and you would appreciate, or everybody out there would appreciate how important it is or how important diet is, our nutrition is in the production or the development of those illnesses. Heart disease, we're talking about all of our fats, trans fats, saturated fats. We're talking about the high sugar foods. We're talking about in hypertension, we're talking about the high salt foods, the salt generally in our diet. So cancer, if you look at cancer again is some people, I'm sure many of us would appreciate the link between diet and cancer. Again, you're looking at similar causes. High fats, high sugar, high salt foods are the ones that actually underpin most of those illnesses. And high fat, high sugar, high salt foods tend to be refined, processed products. Products that are processed to travel distances to various markets. So they tend to be the imported products to a large extent.
How are we here in St. Lucia in terms of just what you spoke about? I mean, is there cause for concern?
Oh yes, major cause for concern because we have a growing epidemic of these illnesses. If one needs only look at NTN or GIS clips of 20 years, 30 years ago and now, and you see the difference in our people. We are heavier. You can actually see it in our waistlines. Our body mass indexes are all edging towards overweight to obese. This has been increasing. These are factors that we know are related to our diet and in fact physical activity, because these two things actually go very much together, because there's also you have to look at not only the high fat, high sugar, high salt foods, but also the calories in your food, the amount of food that you eat or we eat, and base it on versus physical activity, which burns off the food. So you can definitely see the changes in our population, both as you walk on the street, as well as, of course, those of us in the clinics and in the mortuaries. We are seeing what's happening to our people.
Lisa, nutrition. How do you link this with just what Dr. King was discussing?
Well, in addition to what he's saying, because we are consuming so much of processed foods, we have to be aware that the foods that are imported, they are high in what you call additives, preservatives, and also chemicals. Now, these chemicals, over time, get collected in our bodies and also can cause things like cancers. So not only is the fat, the sugar, and the salt causes those health conditions, but the additives in the foods. For example, the chicken that we are importing in St. Lucia, these are being pumped with antibiotics and also hormones. Now these hormones, they have been shown to cause cancer in humans. Another hormone also that is used to pump in the meat for milk production, and this also has been linked to cancer. So this is one of the reasons that we are promoting eating local foods, because when you know where your food comes from when you eat foods from St. Lucia. But those foods that we are consuming that are highly processed, we don't know how these foods are being produced. And this is concern. I mean, you can see that cancer is on a rise in St. Lucia, not only diabetes, but cancer is seriously on a rise. And it is so common that we know that it is something that we are all doing. And I am thinking of milk as one of the avenues. Now, I'm not saying that cow milk is bad, but because of the way it is produced, the hormone that they are pumping for production of milk can make cow's milk bad. And this is just one example.
Because from the ministry's point of view, when you look at our food import bill, which is about almost $350 million annually, how do you see the production of local production being increased to assist for consumption or to increase consumption as the way forward for our healthy nation?
Well, okay, the ministry, we recognize that lifestyle diseases are on the rise, as the two panelists have said. And we have, from the 80s, we began trying to get our agriculture using a little less chemical. We move into a lot of biological control methods and that kind of thing. I certainly believe we can do much more. We have to do things that will, of course, lower the cost of production. I think that is key. If we can lower the cost of production for a number of our vegetables, that will make the costs more easier for some of our, like what they call our very price-sensitive consumers. Because obviously, I mean, the discussion about the processed food versus fresh food, it is not just a question of availability, it's a question of price. And of course, our consumers, because the palates have changed. I mean that's something we must bring on board too. That with the increase in fast foods, I mean, from time you had some of the fast food joints coming on island, we already predicted that our population palates would have changed. And once a person's palate have changed, then you have problems. But coming back on the cost though, we have to look at simple things that would bring down the cost of production. For example, our land preparation. Could we increase mechanization? Could we bring back the old kudme, learning a hand kind of thing? I mean, this is what our folks used to use before to bring down the cost of production. Because people will tell you, boy, it's good I could be a vegetarian, but the cost is prohibitive. And that is where the problem is. So we have to think of ways and means of how we can cut cost of production, how we can also make our foods even more convenient to our people, and increase distribution too.
Great. On that point, I need to pause there because we are due for a break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. We are going to be right back. Stay tuned.
The Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board reminds all importers of such chemicals that according to the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Act, only chemicals which have been registered and granted approval by the board can be legally imported for use in St. Lucia. Agricultural and household chemicals that are not licensed for use in St. Lucia can be harmful to its users and the general public. Before placing orders, importers are advised to check the approved list of pesticides or household chemicals to ensure that they can be legally imported. An import license must be obtained from the Research and Development Division of the Ministry of Agriculture and must be submitted to the Customs and Excise Department to facilitate the clearance of the consignment. For further information, contact the Ministry of Agriculture's Research Division at Union or call telephone numbers 468-5600 or 468-5602.
Welcome back to the program, Agriculture on the Move. We are discussing the consuming our local produce, of course, as it relates to health. Dr. King, I'm coming back to you because I know there's a lot to be done. Where you see policy being placed in that regard to ensure that, you know, we develop a healthy nation?
I think healthy public policy is really a critical element. And I think it means that as multiple stakeholders, we need to come together and advise government on a sensible policy which addresses land use, agricultural production, importation, the kinds of incentives that we put in place. For instance, you know, my pet is that the iconic negative to me is subsidizing the importation of sugar, which we do not produce. Rather, why don't we subsidize local agricultural produce for say, school feeding, so we can reset our children's palates for our local produce? That to me would be a component of healthy public policy. So I think it is very important for us to have that policy, which we can then implement. I understand two things. One, that Mr. La Corbinierre said about price, and the second one is the politics of the day. I understand those two things. However, you counter those things with education, like what we're trying to do here today. And people, all of us, must educate ourselves as to what is healthy for us and right for us, and make those sacrifices in our own lives. So in other words, if a local agricultural produce, a fresh produce, is a little more expensive than an imported processed food, you think of the cost of your disease that you're going to acquire.
Yes,
think of your health impact and factor that into your decision of what you purchase and what you put on your plate, on your children's plate. And similarly for our politicians, you may think that short-term popular politics is the order of the day and is right, but I think you are wrong. In the long run, sustainability of your own political future is going to be determined by the right decisions. And the right decisions I think are always the right ones to make. So that is what the policy should have in it, and we should not be afraid, I think, to educate our people within that, or on that policy and within that policy.
Lisa,
Yes.
the young ones.
Yes.
We need to, I think that's where we need to start.
That's where we need to start.
Yeah,
And
okay. Go ahead.
And the policies he was talking about, we need nutrition policies as to what is sold at the schools. School is an avenue where all children pass through, and this is the best place to start. We have preschool, we have primary school, secondary school, so this is the best avenue. And this is why the Ministry of Health have actually taken the stand in trying to reach the principals, the teachers, the cooks, because we must tackle this thing at all angles. Childhood obesity is becoming a problem. It's not only worldwide, it is in St. Lucia. And if we don't do something about it, we're going to have chaos on our hands. And I'm sure Dr. King can understand. Because obesity, childhood obesity, is a risk factor for all of the chronic diseases. So we need to intervene now. We need those nutrition policies. We need them in place as to what is sold in the schools. We want to undertake a research in trying to find out how much soft drinks that the students consume. And during the pilot of that research, one child indicated that he drank 10 soft drinks in 1 week. That's alarming. Because every soft drink that you drink, you are increasing your risk of getting diabetes. There is nothing good in a soft drink, nothing. There's caffeine, sugar, water, nothing. And so Dr. King made a point that if we are going to spend a little bit more money to buy something that is healthy, it's better that we do that than to buy. So for example, buy the fruit instead of you going to have the soft drink. Because the health impact, the cost of it, of going to the hospital, going to the doctor, is going to be enormous than the few cents that you will spend on on the fruits or the vegetable. And at the end of it, you'll have better health.
There is this school feeding program which is, coming on stream, Lacobs. Can you give us an idea in terms of, where is that going to? Looking, of course, at increased production, more money is going into the farmer's pocket, and of course, developing a healthy nation from the children's standpoint.
Well, I think the school feeding program, I would probably say it might be like what I call a cure for all. Mm-hmm. I mean, I hold so much high anticipation of it coming into being from a policy perspective, mm-hmm. from a production perspective, and from the discussion we are having. Mm-hmm. Because, as Lisa said, the school really is the nursery for us to start changing the minds of our people, changing our eating habits. Mm-hmm. So the school feeding program should be looked as something that we need to implement right away. Mm-hmm. As to exactly where it is right now, I cannot tell you exactly where it is right now, but what I can tell you is that we have recognized or obtained some other sources of funding from the FAO and from ALBA. So from that perspective, there is hope that it will be implemented soon. Mm-hmm. What will it do for agriculture? One of the policy I know that will be going through is that we would only be using produce from St. Lucia. That's a blanket policy that I think Lisa and myself, we're part of the drafting of the document. Mm-hmm. And we're saying that one of the principles we hold very strongly is that the majority or 99.9% of the produce must come from St. Lucia. Mm-hmm. So it means that our farmers, that will create a tremendous opportunity for our farmers. Mm-hmm. Because they'll have to produce all the foods. That means the ministry now, we have to look at some of the policies and some of the programs you've been advocating for a while. Things like your production scheduling, like your forecasting, because we cannot say that, boy, today we don't have. Mm-hmm. Or farmers can produce at their own whims and fancies. Mm-hmm. It means that you have already a target market. You already have the population. You know how many persons in the schools, how many school children, how many mouths you have to feed for 2 meals a day, 1 meal a day. So therefore, that is what will require the planning. Mm-hmm. Also, to complement that, we have already started a project at the Fond facility, where you are able to process fruit pulp and so that also can go into the whole juice that our kids tend to love. And of course, if it is state-run, we can look at how we reduce on the sugars and look at some of the additives that Lisa spoke about. Correct. So, we have a program that can be a serious turning point to some of the lifestyle diseases that we suffer in St. Lucia.
Just go ahead.
I want to come in there as well and to point out another thing about soft drinks or high sugar foods in schools and why it's so important. The school feeding program that you're talking about is so important to implement. Even learning in schools is, your nutrition is so important to your learning.
Yeah. Yes.
If you see you have a child who is just getting high sugar highs all the time because they're consuming high sugar products that have no nutritional value, and so they have no slow burn, no slow release of sugar. They're just getting peaks of sugar. Yeah. Their behavior, their learning capacity, their behavior gets poor. Their learning capacity also is diminished. So actually, that's why the school feeding program is probably the most important place to go to start the process. I was going to say as well, you also mentioned about state-run, but I also believe that there's room for private sector. We have drink manufacturers.
I want to stop here because we are due for another break. We're moving fast and furious. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Did you know that government provides duty-free incentives on farm machinery, inputs, irrigation systems, boat engines, boats, and many more? Investing in agriculture, a wise choice.
Welcome back. Dr. King, I just want the points you're getting into. I also want to get into this to complement what you're saying in terms of the from home, from the parents to that lunchbox.
Yes.
What advice do you have?
Well, I think the parents should come on board with and mirror in the lunchbox what's in the school feeding program.
Yes.
So the school feeding program will teach the parents as well. Teach the children and teach the parents. So the same thing that Lisa and Vincent were talking about having 99.9% local produce in the school feeding program. Put 99.9% St. Lucian products in the lunch kit. So that's what we should be doing. It's better to have, water and banana and local food in your lunchbox than to have corn kernels and a soft drink.
Yes.
Much better. Corn kernels and soft drink
so
is diabetes and hypertension, obesity, cancer, and banana, water, and local food is health and learning.
I just want to add, but why do we eat? Why do we eat? We eat because we need to get the nutrients from the food. If a child has corn kernels and a soft drink in the lunch kit, is that food? What nutrients will that child get from that? None. They will get sugar, they will get salt, they'll get additives, chemicals. So in order for that child to learn and get the nutrients are feeding our cells so that we can grow and develop into healthy adults. So if we are feeding our children with those packaged foods, they are not going to grow well. They are going to be malnourished, whether it's from micronutrients, whether it's from minerals, vitamins, but they are not going to grow well. And studies have shown that if children eat well, that they are going to be doing much better at school, intellectually. And so it is imperative that the parents are on board. If the school feeding program is on board with healthy foods, they need to be on board as well, because they cannot counteract it. At the end of the day, we will not be achieving our goals.
And Philip, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. There's one more point that we need to add in terms of the schools. Is that studies have shown that countries that have implemented the school feeding program, attendance at schools increase.
Yeah.
The school grades are max. Like children do better just by providing one meal. But additionally, I think the argument, the discussion or discourse should continue in terms of how we look at food preparation.
Yes.
Because a number of our population will tell you, boy, when I was small, my parents used to give me a big plate of breadfruit and banja, so that caused me to be against eating breadfruit and banja, because so we need to look at that also in terms of a broader program that seeks to educate our people, the population, on how to prepare the food.
And not only how to prepare, but the portions.
That's
the
right.
portion sizes. Because as you mentioned about the big plate of breadfruit and banja, the truth is that should only be about a quarter of our plate.
To balance it,
and you need to balance it off with if you look around the greens and the orange vegetables, our pumpkin and our lettuce and these things. So I think that's important that we train our people what the plate should look like. But I wanted to come back as well, because you mentioned state, and I want to say that in our policy, two things that I think should be discussed in the policy. One is, how do we mobilize private sector to be on board in local production and using local products to produce healthy products that they can then sell in our market and export, for that matter. So the coconut water, using the pulping to make flavored waters, to make juices without sugar, and that we can then, so we should be actually leading on this, rather than following and importing. We should be leading and exporting. That is how I think we need to engage our private sector and show that there's profit. If you work with government and work with farmers to produce these things, and work with doctors, of course, to produce the right products. And the other thing in the policy that has to be so clear, I think, is we spoke about chemicals, and I heard Vincent talking about moving to biological containment of our pests, in terms of pesticides. It's so important in our policy that we also seriously address the use of chemicals in our local agricultural industry. So because we don't want to create another devil in our produce. So we need to do all of this together, so we have a healthy production of the healthy food for our healthy people.
And that's why we need to go organic. You know, because we have organic pesticides.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we use that, at least, we have garlic barrier, we have neem as an example, and that I think we can go that way. Another way I think we can go, we can start. I think the ministries also have that initiative, is the backyard garden program. Vincent, you can give us a little insight into that?
Yeah, well, the backyard gardening program is really a program that is, the objective is to really get increased consumption of local foods, but also to get persons to reduce on the amount of money that they spend at the supermarket. But again, purchasing some other bad foods that are available there. Right. So the ministry, we have had this program for a while now, is beginning to pay some level of success. But I think we need to look at it, and I like the policy where the Prime Minister have indicated that the hobby gardens would be would have a tax rebate on persons who go into like hobby gardens. And I think that again will assist in terms of getting fresh foods, getting healthier foods, maybe foods with less chemical, as Dr. King just did. But I'm very strong and passionate about, we need to look at programs and even policy that will cause persons to prepare the foods in a form of fashion that you find the nutrients are not lost. We have a history in St. Lucia, the culture that we overcooked everything, our food. Maybe it's what I've saved us from getting food poisoning, especially some of the meats, right?
Meats, but not for vegetables.
But not for vegetables. So we need to look at all those things. And I think the backyard gardening would provide the kind of produce all year round into some critical, maybe less fortunate families. And we need to get those persons eating more of those produce.
The backyard gardening, Philip, I wanted to say also, I was talking to some young guys in New Village about it, and they were, barrel aponics and in the city is something to look at as well, where we can produce tilapia, and you can use the aquaponic system to also produce vegetables. That's right. Using the effluent from the treated effluent from the tilapia barrel. So these kinds of things, because seafood and vegetables is seafood is one of your good forms of protein, and it has lots of other good things. So fish. Now, true, tilapia is not seafood in inverted commas, but it's fish, and it's good. And I think so. I would like inner city people to also understand that backyard. You don't have to have a backyard necessarily to get into agriculture, because there's technology that can get you into agriculture, even if all you have is a 6x6 piece of concrete at the back of your house or the front of your house. So I think that is something also that we should be looking at.
I want to urge St. Lucians that we need to change our health, our lifestyles, and if we don't, then it's going to affect our health. And we are advocating local consumption because the foods are fresher, they are healthier, and there are more nutrients in there.
Lack of any final words?
Yeah, well, the ministry of cognizant of some of the lifestyle diseases, and we are trying to do everything in our powers to try to see how we can approach it from a production perspective. If persons can remember, the ministry had a big campaign on kale, and now we're seeing kale is beginning to really be a major crop on the market.
Okay, well, I think we're out of time. I mean, it's a very interesting program. I think we'll have a part 2 of it. So, Dr. King, I want to thank you, Lisa and La Corbs. We'll do it again next time. So, St. Lucians, thank you for viewing the program, Agriculture on the Move. We have ended. So, until next time, I'm Phillip Sydney saying goodbye and see you again.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.